and a very warm welcome to this episode of ETStudios, powered by Tata Communications, coming to you from ETCIO Annual Goa 2024. I'm your host, Divina Lasson. Now, in this series, we're thrilled to bring you conversations with India's leading CIOs to get you unique and exclusive industry insights. Today, we're here to explore branch modernization and how AI can assist in improving the overall customer experience in banks. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome our guest today, Hari Nair, VP Solutions Engineering, Tata Communications, and Mahesh Ramamoorthy, CIO, Yes Bank. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on ETStudios. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate this opportunity.
Absolutely. And no better guests on our show today than the two of you to talk about a very interesting topic, which is the modernization of bank branches. And so, if we can start with you, just to help us set the foundation and to understand what is your view and your perspective, how do you see bank branches really modernizing, and what's the bank branch of the future?
Well, I believe that as you evolve from a technology perspective and the ability to drive more better customer experience from a sales and servicing view, branches in future would be more like a coffee shop, the way I look at it. That's where it should head for, where you would have outside of the teller where you handle cash, the rest should be sort of free seating and have a nice video center, have a nice experience where you have a tab. Today, everything is accessible over the tab, and you're able to cross sell, upsell, or engage with the customer and have chairs which are more comfortable than the standard. So, to me, I think branches of the future will be more in terms of an engagement model rather than a fixed seating basis, which is what a traditional branch looks like, because it moves from being just a service line to become a sales, engagement, and service. That's the experience that will change. That's where I'm coming from.
Absolutely wonderful. So, what would you say are some of the key areas that you're already working on at Yes Bank when it comes to enhancing the customer experience?
It's important to understand as to how you really look at customer experience. Experience from a when you mobile is one part. So anything that you do on the self-service side on the customer, uh, from a, what is the kind of interaction, how do you make it more intuitive, is something that we do on the mobile side from a customer experience perspective. The other one is on the contact center. So when the customer reaches out to the contact center, how do we enable the contact center agent to be far more intuitive than keep asking a lot of questions to be able, so which means how do you feed data into that front line to be able to do that at the branch level. And I told, if the branch becomes a fairly engagement model, we today would have a CRM, a customer relationship experience that is there, wherein a person who's engaging with the customer would have the ability to have the same kind of view that a contact center has vis-a-vis what is there at the branch. So, which means any touch point, you unify the experience. So, anyone who walks into the branch, the person who's handling has the same data, same kind of knowledge vis-a-vis on a call or on a video. I think that's what we have to aim towards. Our customer experience is measured very tightly, and whether it is on a self-service touch point or on an agent or at the branch. And I think that's where we are going to really look at it better.
Wonderful, very, very exciting plans. Hari, let's get you in on this. Your vision for a bank branch of the future. And of course, from your vantage point of working with so many different organizations, really getting an insight and in depth into where technology is taking future experiences. So, what does a bank branch of the future look like to you?
Yeah, I think what Mahesh said and what is happening, especially for all modern banks, is to actually, make it as frictionless as possible. Okay, and the technology already exists. It's actually the packaging which is important, and it has to make sense for the customer for that environment, right? And what they want to actually innovate. This is an absolutely booming environment where an aspirational India is trying to actually go to the bank and actually have a service rather than just resolving a problem. So how do you actually bring the technology in various shapes and forms actually have that visibility today. So kind of a video visibility, which today one of the challenges for customers is that what happens into my branch, right? And getting that into a customized model is something which people are looking for, efficiencies, and then making it frictionless for the customer in the entire experience. So it's a journey. Tools exist, the ability to actually package those tools, and anyone who walks into the branch is expecting the problem to be going away. He doesn't want to be walking out disappointed, and the business definitely doesn't want that. And quite often the challenge is that as you go to smaller branches, you can't have the same level of skills which you have in a bigger branch. Okay, how do you build more efficiency around that? How can you use and extend tools which can actually do that in a lot more logical fashion? So that's the key thing, and many people are innovating around that space and trying out various options. Some work, some don't work, so it is good to fail fast and then actually turn around and do the next best thing. Today it's possible to do it at very interesting cost points which actually meet the business challenges for the customer.
Yes, all right. Very exciting. Mahesh, also wanted to talk to you about your expansion plans in microfinance. And it's quite known that this is an area that Yes Bank is getting into quite heavily. But what does it really take from a technology standpoint? How are you gearing up to meet all the nuances and all the requirements and the high demand, in fact, when it comes to microfinance?
Microfinance, you have to ensure that you have the least amount of spend, and when you do that, everything has to be at a very low footprint, which is a tab. And within the tab, how do you really create an ecosystem, a connected ecosystem within the tab, and how do you at the same time be able to engage with the customer, because you will have a KYC that is done on the biometric, you may have a VKYC on the video. So how do you really bring all of this together in a very small footprint, make it more enriched in terms of how you better interact, and more importantly from a technology perspective is also about if you do a transaction, how do you engage with the customer in a local language? That is most important, because you are at the end of the day having an engagement with someone which is who understands the local language better. So how do you really engage at that level, and how do you play out on that is going to be very, very key. So we are actually now driving pretty fast to be able to build that capabilities for expansion at a very low cost, low footprint, but at the same time ramp up from a business capability perspective.
Absolutely. What are some of the AI cloud initiatives that you have as well under your belt?
Well, AI cloud, I would put it more from a perspective is that uh, AI has always been there in a banking infrastructure, whether it is a reconciliation, everything. I think where we are now going in is in terms of using the generative AI to make it much more, I think, much more useful to us. So essentially, being working with some of the large players, OEMs, to be able to figure out certain good use cases. One of the use cases being in terms of how do I segment my customer, and how do I essentially be able to do target very focused customer upsell, cross-sell capabilities from a campaign perspective, not generic, but use the capabilities to differentiate between what I give to you versus the someone else, and how do I take data and use not just internal data but also common data that is available and narrow down for individuals. So that is something which we are doing. We are also doing a lot around in terms of establishing certain capabilities around what I would call it as how do I create efficiencies in credit administration. So how do I, when you, any person at the front line, the RMs create a lot more credit memos every year. But these are repetitive tasks that come in. Data exists, both internal, transactional data exists, there is data with respect to what is available on the internet. How do you bring all of them together? And how do I generate data quickly and reduce the effort, reduce the efficiency? And if you have generative AI coupled with Copilot, I would say the efficiency is going to be so high that what you turn around a credit memo in say what 5 days, 6 days, you can do in 30 minutes. That's what we're really looking at POCs at this moment. Obviously, we have to calibrate it from a data security perspective. How do I manage the customer data and customer information? So we're still in the POC stages, but good opportunity for us to move forward.
Wonderful. And needless to say, this will have a vast impact on your business moving forward.
I would say the moment I create efficiencies, why not?
Yes.
The first is about how I make the statement speak, and here is about how I create efficiencies.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's how I think.
Yes. And Hari, your input on this as well, very interesting because again, you work with so many organizations across the board. So, how do you see the future of Gen AI and cloud in helping all businesses to grow, to enhance their efficiency, and just become sort of future ready organizations?
Correct. So we look at it from a customer interaction platform perspective. So many things which Mahesh said, it has to be done in an efficient manner. At the same time, the tools have to be packaged in a right way. So the way we went about it is we had to completely reimagine the way we have to do the activity. We have a set of standard products which have been traditionally there for a very long time, but we had to actually package it for the footprint which you have to actually package it for. For example, a microfinance space. The requirement there would be to actually ensure that many things get bundled and actually implemented so it can be touched or managed by someone with a very low skill to actually support the customer in that journey. Okay, the whole interaction of that could be done through a set of boxes with video and other elements, and that journey has to be a continuous journey because customers come, when it comes to microfinance, it's a big decision. It may be micro for someone, but it is a big decision for someone else, and that decision will require to actually have the same experience and the same vernacular to actually work for that person. So how do you actually build the tools, build the infrastructure for those tools, and ensure that the costs are kept very optimal, so that you actually ensure that that extension of connection, the ability to actually do many things on technology at the edge, okay, and give that flexibility to manage all this in a more seamless manner. Okay, if the operation model is disrupted, then that doesn't add, it adds to cost. All that for a nano kind of a model or a micro model is something which is going to be very critical, and that's the journey which we are working, co-building with our customers. This is not a model which is which has completely got evolved by working with customers. So that's the journey for us.
Yes, wonderful. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Before we wrap up, sort of one key takeaway for all our viewers today on how you foresee AI enhancing and improving the customer experience, especially in a bank branch. Just one key takeaway.
I think AI will help in terms of enabling better experience because when there is an engagement happening at the branch level, when you enable the front lines to be able to use the CRM capabilities along with AI, the engagement that you do is going to be far more constructive, is going to be far more focused. The front line is able to have much more data, and the data could be fairly qualified using AI. So, which means it's a far more serious conversation that can happen rather than a fairly non-intuitive approach. I think that's the way I would put it. So, and which means that you're going to be able to understand the customer better and talk more constructive with the customer.
Yes, wonderful. Right?
Yeah, so it has to be personalized, right? Any service, I don't think services today, and the customer is becoming more demanding, irrespective of which part of the country you're going to. Okay, so the expectation for the customer is always going to drive innovation in this space, and it has to be personalized and meeting the vernacular of that geography, and be able to actually, what are the tools which will be intuitive for a person in a city may not be true in a village, right? So how do you actually break down those barriers and make it very simple? So that's the journey I think we will get into very soon. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen. Absolute pleasure to have you here on ET Studios. Thank you so much for joining today and sharing all your insights and future outlook when it comes to Gen AI and AI in the banking sector. Thank you.